When you think about running power in modern day high school football, this is probably what we're thinking. We've got 3 downs on the front side, a wrapping guard, a hinging backside tackle, and a sniffer on the kick out. In this video, I'm going to show you how I run it a little bit differently and how we block it up against every front. The primary difference that I have in my offense is that I do not use a sniffer in my offense. Sniffer meaning that I call him my F. A lot of people call it the H-back. He is between the guard and tackle, ready for the kick out. I do not put a player in that position for 2 reasons. Really, my F is my jack of all trades player, maybe even a master of none. Can he run a couple routes? Can he catch a little bit? Can he block a little bit? Can he run the ball a little bit? Maybe he's not great enough to be a primary running back or a primary receiver, maybe not strong enough to be a primary tight end, but he can do a little bit of everything. So with that said, I want to have him in a position to do a little bit of everything and threaten that possibility to the defense. So I either want him to be in a true fullback position. If he is in a fullback position, then he is a potential threat to carry the ball. If we're in this kind of set, then yes, primarily he's going to be a blocker, but he could also be a ball carrier threat crossing the quarterback's face. Now the running back can either be some eye candy flaring out the opposite way, or he can transition to be a lead blocker for the fullback. But if he's in the backfield, he's a threat to carry the ball, but he's still in position to kick out a defensive end. The other place that I will put my F outside of being a true detached wide receiver is I'll put him in a wing position. And the difference between a wing and a sniffer is that a wing presents the possibility to the defense of a vertical route. Most defenses are going to treat a sniffer if he's tucked inside the tackle. They are not worried about him running a vertical route because he can't just go straight without running into somebody. If he's in a wing position, he can run straight, so he is a vertical threat. I want him in either of these positions because he can either threaten to be a potential ball carrier or he can threaten to be a potential vertical route runner. If my F is in a sniffer position, he is not presenting either of those possibilities to the defense. The most likely thing he's presenting is that we are probably running the ball, and if anything else, maybe he's going to slip out into the flat. Now, throughout the course of this video, we're primarily going to talk about him as a fullback, just getting a regular kick out, but we can also run power with him from a wing. Now, we're not just going to expect him to kick an outside linebacker from there, but what we can do is instead of lining him up in a sniffer position, we can motion him. So when we break the huddle, the defense has to account for him as a vertical threat, but before we run the play, we can put him in a position to kick out. We can do this either with what the Rams call shuttle motion, which is this short end motion, or we can go with a spirit motion, a lot of people call escort, where now we're going across the formation ready for the kick out. So keep in mind throughout the course of the video, those are possibilities, but we are going to draw the rest of these up from a fullback position. So starting with running power against an overfront, outside of not having the true sniffer, there's not going to be much that is totally different here. We're going to get a double team on the 3 back to the backside linebacker. Center is going to be solo blocking back on the nose. We're going to wrap to the play side linebacker. Backside tackle is going to hinge, which doesn't mean he just has the will. He's going to step hard into the B gap first to make sure this jack doesn't try and run through. If the jack tries to run through, then he's going to take him. If the B gap is clean, then he's going to open back up for the will late in the play. The F from his strong position here is going to have the kick out, and the running back is going to get downhill working A to C. Now, I love running it out of 20 personnel here against a regular 4-2 over because we have some great RPO abilities, especially out of the pistol. So out of the pistol here, the quarterback's opening up play side, which if you've been part of the channel for a while, you know that I like play side RPOs. So the quarterback's shoulders are going to be turned right at the Sam here. And the Sam is really our conflict player because he's going to be the alley defender. He's the only person that can get relatively quickly inside of our kick out in our wall that we're going to make of down blocks and wrapping through. Now on the perimeter, we're going to have a built-in smoke screen. The Y is going to outside release and block the most dangerous man. If the corner sinks off and the safety comes down, then he would pick him up. And the Z is going to run the smoke screen. So we can either be 6 for 6 in the box. We can be 2 for 2 on the perimeter. The Sam is the person that we can't block. He can either be 7 for 6 in the box, in which case we need to take our numbers to the perimeter, or he can stay out wide. stay 3/2 to the perimeter, and now we have numbers in the box. Backside, the X would have a thunder route, which is a hitch fade option with the corner off. This is going to be a hitch, and this would be a pre-snap read, especially because the quarterback is going to turn his back to it post-snap. We would really only activate this if the free safety is going to kind of make himself a problem pre-snap. Is he walking down off the edge? Now, we can't handle him, but as long as this free safety is staying in his too high shell, then the X is just on a hitch backside. Now, if we were to put the F opposite, sometimes the 3 will go to the fullback, probably more often than not, but there are some teams that will, especially if we've got our twins to the field, we'll just keep the 3 to the field to try and cut off anything that way. So we also do need to know how to run power to a 1 technique. We're still going to have our fullback kicking out. Our center is going to go back on a 3. Now, one thing that I do differently here is we are not just running straight back for the mic. We're not just soloing everything here on the front side. I want to get at least 3 hands on this nose too, because what I've had happen a lot, at least in my experience, is that this mic a lot of times is going to actually try and shoot through the A gap. So if I have the tackle solo responsible for him, he's not going to get there because the guard's not looking for him. So we want to truly combo this to the backside linebacker, and then we're going to wrap for the jack. Our hinge backside, the B gap is not clean, so the tackle is going to post up the 3 for the center and then get back out for the defensive end late. You'll notice we still have our smoke screen to the field to our twins, and we're going to treat this Sam just like we did the free safety on the last play. As long as he's staying out 3/2 and not getting involved in the box, then we're just going to let that be. That's our pre-snap alert because we're running this to the left. If he does make his way into the core, then we can throw it and we're 2/2. We've got a hat for a hat, make one person miss, and we're off to the races. Now, post-snap here, I don't really love the hitch as a post-snap RPO because it doesn't really put the free safety in conflict. It never enters his route space. I like to run the glance instead, where we're really replacing this free safety. If he fits the alley, then we throw it behind him. If he stays high, then we have our numbers in the box. Now, if we are actually running this to the left, then I would probably make a tag to put the running back on a backside path just so the quarterback's shoulders can be square to his throw, instead of having to totally turn facing this way and then having to look over his shoulder to the free safety and then totally flip his hips to make a throw. That can be really difficult, so we would probably tag this up to let the running back go backside to play side and keep the quarterback on an easy shoulder throwing path to the glance. RPOs are everywhere across the football landscape, but oftentimes they can seem complicated and too difficult to execute at the high school level. If you're interested in running RPOs, but you feel like a lot of what you see is too complicated and difficult for a high schooler to execute, then check out my free clinic, link in the description below. I'm going to take you through my strategy and philosophies and schemes for keeping RPOs simple and effective at the high school level. And better yet, it doesn't matter what offense you run. These strategies can be applied anywhere from the spread to the single wing. Again, it is totally free. It's on Coaching Share. The link is in the description below. You don't want to miss it. Now, some will consider the play we just talked about running it to an underfront because the 3 was away from the running strength, away from the fullback, and that's totally fine, but I do want to show how I would draw it up to a 100% true full-fledged underfront here because it does leave a little bit of difference. Now, traditional power would still have the center back here. The guard would be solo on the nose. We'd still be hinging the backside tackle, and this would be a tram, a tight end tackle double team back to the mic with the guard wrapping for the jack and still having our fullback kick out. But I don't like running it this way. Not only did we just talk about the mic probably running through before that double team gets there, but I don't practice this with my tight ends. This is probably the second most key block on this play, and it's very difficult and time consuming to practice. So what I try and do is I want to keep everything the same as for the offensive line. They should know that we are running it to a 1 technique. How do we handle running it to a 1 technique? We still have our back, we have our hinge like we just talked about. We're going to double the 1 technique. And now I'm not just going to leave the tight end solo on this defensive end. We are going to block it up the exact same way as we did that 1 technique we just looked at. And now we're just going to take the tight end solo on the Sam. We still have our running back coming play side from the pistol. And the reason I do it this way is because it keeps everything as as simple as possible for as many players as possible. Maybe my Y is not a detachable player. Maybe he has to stay tight to the core. Maybe if he's detached, I'm expecting 4 or 5 different things from the defense, but if I bring him down and we're in 21 personnel, I know that I'm going to get an under front, so I want to run it this way because I know I've regulated the defense. I know exactly what I'm going to get. But for the 6 primary blockers, our 5 offensive linemen and our fullback, it is the exact same as we just talked about whenever the Y was detached. We don't have to practice anything different just because the tight end is in. The tight end just needs to know that he is man on this Sam, and he can't let him cross his face. So since we are 7 for 7 in the box, we can still run our play side glance, reading the safety. We would still have our backside thunder route, which again, we would only really activate and alert if the free safety makes his way into the core. But as long as they're staying too high, then we can read this strong safety on the glance. We're either 7 for 7 in the box, or we are 1 for 1 with the glance. The strong safety is the person that we can't account for, so we will take where we get our one-on-one matchup. All right, now let's talk about odd fronts because they present a lot of problems. Now, I've got a 4 technique and a 4-eye drawn up here. We would expect either one or the other from a defense, but I'm gonna both drawn up because they can each present some unique difficulties. Now, if we were running power left here, the first thing we would not do is we're not gonna go back on a 4-eye or a head up 4, because what that does now is it makes the backside tackle solo responsible for the backside inside linebacker, and a good 4 technique here is not going to let this tackle get all the way back there. A good 4 technique is going to squeeze this thing down and get hands on, and we might never pick up, we might never block this backside linebacker. It's easy for him cut this thing off, not let the tackle get there, and now the jack can scrape over and make the play. Or maybe we're running it the other way, and if we're going down now, the 4-eye is in the gap. The tackle can't even have a hope of getting all the way back there because there's literally somebody in the B gap. So if we're not going to go back on a 4 or a 4-eye, then that has to be the person that we hinge, regardless of whether he's a 4 or a 4-eye. That is the person that the backside tackle is going to block. We are also not even going to block a defensive end, whether he's a 4, whether he's a 4-eye. We are not going to try and down block with the play side tackle. I just talked about if we were running left, how the play side tackle is probably not even going to make it to the second level against a halfway decent 4. A pretty common thing that I see against odd fronts is then to just base up this 4 technique, and I don't like that either, because whenever we're blocking somebody straight ahead, we really give them a 2-way go. And one of the whole reasons that we're going to run gap scheme is to create angles. If I'm blocking somebody straight ahead, then I don't have an angle on them. We wouldn't have to block a 4-eye straight ahead, but the problem with the block on a 4-eye isn't actually the tackle, it's the guard. So if we were going to run power to the right here, we got a Sam outside of here that maybe we were going to kick. We would double team the nose back to the mic, wrap to the jack, wherever we can get inside and hinge on the 4. Sure, it looks good on paper, but the problem I've had here is that the tackle blocking this 4-eye, it actually ends up so far in the B gap that there's not enough space to actually get the guard up to the mic linebacker if he scrapes. So again, we kind of get to that same problem as if we had a 4 technique, is that even though it looks good on paper, I don't actually have somebody who can be guaranteed to pick up this scraping linebacker. The next thing you can do is maybe double the 4-eye, but now I have my guard working out, and if this linebacker shoots through, he's got to totally redirect. That also leaves the center solo on the nose, and again, we don't really have a great angle there. I like it better because we can cut it off, but most good teams are going to put somebody at nose who really demands a double team as it is. So leaving a center solo on a nose is not my favorite way to attack a defense. So if we can't do any of those things, what can we do? Whether we have a 4 or a 4-eye, if we're running to an open side, a side without a tight end, what I like to do is I like to take the play side tackle out. Then we're going to kick the 4-eye. Now we have a space for our double team. We have space for our guard to get up. We can get our backside guard through on the wrap, and we still have our hinge backside. Now, I don't love a fullback leading on a 4-eye. This would probably be more of a scenario where he would be in a wing and we would motion him into that position. But this is something we would do regardless of even if there is an outside linebacker down or not. Maybe we're going to run power opposite here. Maybe we've got twins and the outside linebacker is all the way out here. I'm still going to take this tackle out. He's going to go out and look for the first thing that comes his way. Still going to double team here, wrap to the mic, kick the 4-eye, and hinge backside, and we'll talk about this outside linebacker in a minute. The other option against an odd front is to run it to a tight end. What the tight end gives us now is, number one, we have widened our kick man, and since we have the extra blocker play side, now we can double team the 4-eye and we can double team the nose. We would make a call here to let the guard know that the play side linebacker is accounted for. He's going to wrap for the next guy, and then we're still hinging on the 4-eye. But what do we do then with this outside linebacker? Again, I don't like leaving players in the box unaccounted for. There are a couple ways we can handle him. Maybe we get to a nub formation here where we've got twins away, and that's going to widen him out to an apex position. We could have our perimeter screens here where we've got the bubble in case that he gets tightened down. Maybe we get into some really heavy personnel, some 22 personnel things, and have an extra tight end backside to really account for him. We get two hingers on the backside, one for the 4-eye, one for the outside linebacker. So compared to an even front, whether it's over, whether it's under, that's a lot of consideration to try and run power against an odd front. One thing that I think really equalizes power against odd fronts is being able to read a defender. Now remember, at the beginning, I remember talking about the fullback as somebody who can easily get involved in the run game. So we can actually run power read here with the fullback just out of this regular formation. And if we're running power read to the left, then we do not have a tight end. We got a 4-eye, so the tackle here is going to arc to get to the wheel. Going to get our double team on the nose, and then we have our double hinges backside. We're going to cut off the 4-eye. Tight end's going to have the Sam. We're going to read the play side 4-eye, and our running back here is going to lead for the fullback. He would make sure that the wheel actually gets hooked, and then he's going to continue working. What I really like here is getting the X to crack, and then the running back getting to work to the corner. So technically here, the quarterback is the one running the power path. Our F would be on the sweep with lead blockers. Now, I prefer it this way because I don't like running pistol power read with the running back and reading the 4-eye, because the 4-eye can take just a straight ahead path and he can really impact both ball carriers. But this sweep action, whether it's from the F, whether it's maybe some normal jet power read stuff, that really forces a 4-eye to commit to either stopping the sweep or stopping the power. If we want to run it strong, maybe I don't have that third in the core blocking body to where I can get to 22 personnel. If we're going to run power read, I can take the fullback and leave him backside now because I don't need him on the kick out. So we can still run power read strong here to the running back. We can read the Sam. We're going to get our two double teams on the nose and on the 4-eye. Again, we would make our call to let the backside tackle know he's wrapping for the next guy he sees, which would be the strong safety here. Backside tackle is going to cut off the backside 4-eye. And then we still have our F backside who can pick up anything leaking off the backside like this will. So now the running back is the one running the power. The quarterback would be running the outside version. And I'm okay with that because now our read man is a wide 9. So he's either going to have to turn his shoulders and get down the line of scrimmage to stop the power, or he's going to have to get vertical to stop the sweep. Unlike a 4-eye, he can't play both. So that's a more common approach to power read, reading the play side edge defender. Another way we can read a defender on power is to run kind of what I consider to be a midline power read. And what's different about most ways people run power read is this is actually going to be a backside read. So our fullback is still going to kick out. We're still going to wrap through. And now instead of having to be 2 for 1 on the backside, we're going to midline read this thing. The tackle is going to block the will, and we're going to read the 4-eye. So here the running back is going to work backside to front side. And even though I just said that I don't like reading 4-eyes on power read, that's when he's a play side 4-eye. If the quarterback is going to be running on the backside, then it's still a big enough angle to where he's going to have trouble playing both. So I don't mind the read here. All right, so let's say now that we don't want to read anybody against a 3-4. We don't want to have a play side true power read. We don't want to have a backside midline power read. We don't want to read anybody. We got to find a way to get this backside linebacker out of the box. And against a normal 3-4, the best way to do that is to get to twins. Now, not much is going to change here. The reason I mainly drew this up here is I want to show what we're going to do if we have a regular head up 6 technique. And this is an adjustment that some odd front teams will make if there is only a nub tight end. So here again, remember, I don't like straight ahead blocking defenders on power. We want to keep our angles. I don't want to double team down here because then the Sam can just get hands on and we can just get a scrape exchange nice and easy for the jack. So here now, we would not get a call to the backside guard to tell him to wrap to the next man. We're going to treat this almost like an open formation. The tight end is going to arc, and if he's not blocking that Sam, then that means our tackle is also going to arc. So now again, we're just back to blocking regular open side power. Going to kick the 4-eye, wrap tight for the jack, and hinge on the backside tackle. We don't have to worry about this backside will coming, and if we do, then we're going to have our perimeter screen away from him, which would be a pre-snap alert. So we've talked over front, we've talked under front, we've talked odd and tight fronts. Lastly, we need to look at the stack, and the stack throws basically all the issues we have against odd fronts and then a couple more, because now we have 3 linebackers to worry about instead of 2. And one thing that I see a lot when I see gap schemes run against stack fronts is that our double teams lose their horizontal angles. I'll see centers and guards working to middle stacked backers. I'll see tackles and tight ends working to outside stacked backers. And now again, we're working vertically. And yes, I do want there to be a vertical element, but I still want it to be a vertical element while I'm maintaining horizontal angles. You know, in the run game, whether it's zone, whether it's gap, I want to separate the front. Wide zone, we've talked about sealing the front in. Mid zone, more traditional, what people call wide zone or stretch and puncture. And if it's a gap scheme, we want to separate the front by blocking down and kicking out the last person. If it's power or counter, we've got a guard wrapping through the alley. If it's duo, then we're still down blocking, but we still have angles. If I'm blocking like this against the stack, then I've lost those angles. So I always want to make sure this ace block, this center and guard double team goes to the backside linebacker. I want my tight end and tackle double team, my tram to go to the middle linebacker, and then I want my wrap to go to the true play side linebacker. I'm going to take my fullback. We're going to kick out the 9 technique, and then we still have our 2-for-1 on the backside. And this is the issue with running gap schemes against 8-man fronts. It's pretty easy with zone because we're used to reading a zone read. We can block 7, we can read number 8, but we are a lot less likely to read gap schemes. And even if we were going to run the midline power read here and read the 4 technique, 3-3 stack teams are generally going to be a lot better at scrape exchanging, which can really kill that. Or even if we were going to run a regular power read, keeping the fullback backside like we talked about and hinging the backside tackle and keeping the fullback so we're 2 for 2, and then we were to read the Sam, again, it's a lot easier for this 3-3 stack to scrape exchange. So this is really how I want to block power. And that leaves us a few options with this backside will. We can try and control him with a boot from the quarterback, so we're not technically reading him, but we need to make him honor the quarterback. We've drawn it up a few times here. We've got our thunder route, which is a hitch fade option. If this will is down and truly playing off the edge, then we have our one-on-one. We can try and throw this backside and force the defense to decide to either widen this will out to at least be able to cover the curl, in which case he's probably not in the box anymore, or what's probably more likely is to have the corner just start pressing to take away the hitch, and I'm not really going to throw a pre-snap fade as a true part of the game plan. You know, maybe both corners are pressed so we don't have a hitch option anywhere, then we might throw it just to try and take a one-on-one for the play and then try and get to something else we have in a series. The other thing we can do is again get into our twins. We can take our Z and get to a backside twins with a strong side nub. Now some defenses here will go corners over, and if they're going to do that and keep the will backside, then I'm not going to run power. We're going to run some kind of outside zone because there is no force defender over here. We're going to run outside zone, we're going to get the edge, and we're going to run until this free safety can make a tackle 12 yards down the field. But if they're going to play a lot more sound, then this second receiver here is going to bring the will out of the box. It's going to bring the corner kind of as the force defender. If corners could tackle, they would play safety. This is really forcing this corner to be the extra fitter here. We don't have a way to account for him. This player is on the field primarily to cover. This player is on the field to make things happen with the ball in his hands, and that's a matchup that I'll take any day. Let me know in the comments down below how you like to run power, and if you like this video, click on the screen and watch this next one. I think you'll like it too.